Tape my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? Hush.
Welcome, World Ablaze listeners, and you are tuning in to episode 52. I'm recording this on a Friday, so happy Friday, happy weekend. And because it's a Friday, I'm going to crack a tall can. There we go. And I'm going to raise that tall can to you and give you a big happy Friday, happy weekend. Cheers. Awesome. Okay. So, firstly, I want to thank everybody for keeping us in the top 200 in politics on the Apple charts. Please remember to follow, like, and share the show. Also, follow me on X. My handle is @fontsablaze. That is @FONTES ablaze. And if you have any questions or comments, you can email me at worldablaze@fontsmedia.com. That's worldablaze@FONTESmedia.com. Okay, so this Friday, nothing ceases to amaze me, I guess. It just keeps, the hits just keep going, keep coming. We're just going to keep rolling with the punches, as they say. But let's talk Biden. You know, I haven't focused in on Biden for a while. He's a lame duck president. He's on his way out. But it seems like this guy is doing everything he can to cause as much damage as possible before he leaves office. Now, there's a few things I want to address. It's not just all about Biden on this show, but I do want to talk about Biden's gracious nature in just granting so many pardons, using his powers of clemency. I mean, after his son, he probably just said, to hell with it. Let's go ahead and just forgive everybody. And there's even discussion of him granting preemptive pardons. Now, what does that mean? Preemptive? Well, that means he's going to pardon people for just in case, just because. Haven't been convicted of anything yet. You may be suspected, but nothing's happened. You haven't been brought to trial or convicted, but you know what? I'm gonna give you a pardon. So it's a get out of jail free card, basically. If you played Monopoly before, you get that card. You land on that square and you get that get out of jail free card. Well, you usually save that for later, right? For just in case you land in jail. Pretty much that's a preemptive pardon. But let's talk about what just recently happened. So recently, honestly, just a few days ago, it's Biden commutes 1,500 jail sentences, grants pardons for 39 others as well. And this is considered the largest single-day grant of clemency by any president. But what's interesting are some of the individuals that he has granted pardons to. Of note, there have been 2 Chinese spies. Now, I'm horrible at pronouncing these names, but bear with me. There's Yanjun. I think Yanjun is spelled Yanjun. Zhu, which is XU. This person was sentenced to 240 months imprisonment. Okay. Now, here's the offense: conspiracy to commit economic espionage, conspiracy to commit trade secret theft, attempted economic espionage by theft or fraud, attempted theft of trade secrets by taking or deception. Another spy. This is Ji Shouquan, I believe, spelled J-I, first name, last name, CHAOQUN, 96 months imprisonment. Offenses: conspiracy to defraud the United States, impersonating agents of foreign governments, statements or entries generally. So this person has also been pardoned. But let's move on to the other egregious acts that are being just granted clemency for or pardon for. Of note, here's another Chinese citizen, Shanlin Jin or Shanlin Jin. It's SHANLIN. First name and last name is JIN. This person was sentenced to 97 months imprisonment, 5 years supervised release, $30,500 in restitution. And what did this person get charged for? Well, possession of child pornography. Now, it wasn't just possession of child pornography. You see, Shan Linjin, again, a Chinese citizen, he pled guilty after it was found that he had over 47,000 child porn images found on his computer. Again, this person was pardoned and was found to have 47,000 child porn images found on his computer. All right, Joe, fucking make it make sense here. Why would you pardon a child pornographer or someone who supports child pornography? And why would anyone save 47,000 pictures of child porn if you're not intending to distribute said pictures of child porn? Another gem of a person who's been, who's had their sentence commuted is the notorious Kids for Cash judge who was convicted of imprisoning juveniles for kickbacks. And guess how much those kickbacks added up to? They added up to over $2.1 million. $2.1 million. Like, wait a minute. You're rewarding a judge who was on the take for imprisoning juveniles and getting kickbacks for the tune of $2.1 million? This judge's name, or now former judge's name, is Michael Conahan. And again, this person was convicted and found guilty of being involved in a scheme in which he sent more than 2,500 children between 2003 and 2008 to jail. Now, I'm not sure why this person sent these kids to jail. I didn't really dig too deep into it, but he was found guilty of doing so and getting kickbacks to the tune of $2.1 million over that time for doing so. Now, my question is, why in the hell is Joe Biden granting pardons and commuting sentences for people who are involved in child abuse and child pornography? Make that make sense, Joe. Like, Joey, Joe Biden, listen, why are you supporting those who abuse children and peddle child pornography? Can you answer that question? I mean, look, the Chinese spies are bad enough that you just went ahead and pardoned those people, but child pornographers and child abusers? Joe, like what the fuck, man? Like, seriously, what are you doing? I don't think I'm ever gonna understand this decision. And I can't assume to know the reasons why outside of other people possibly being implicated. But, you know, I also have to say that if that was the question, then I'm sure these people would be Epsteined in jail. But again, I all I can do is assume. I have no idea. I have no idea why Biden is supporting child pornographers and child abusers. But let's move on to preemptive pardons. You see, this was a rumor, kind of a rumor. People were talking about it, but now it's not a rumor. See, even Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, tried to sidestep the question when she was asked.
Are preemptive pardons on the table at President Justin?
I'm just not going to. I'm not going to get ahead of the president. Certainly, the president is looking at, reviewing next steps, and there will be more to come. I'm just not going to get ahead of the president. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals from here.
So she's not going to get ahead of the president. That was not a statement of denial, by the way. She just said, "I'm not going to get ahead of the president." Basically saying, "I'm not going to speak for him, or I'm not going to confirm nor deny." But did say that President Biden is looking into the next steps. Like, hold on there, Karine Jean-Pierre. What does that actually mean? What are you saying? Are you saying yes, but not really? That's a no, but not a no? Well, or is it a more than likely? Or is it really just a I can't confirm nor deny? Which is also an admission of Yes, kind of. Not really, but with a big wink wink, if you know what I'm saying. So, as far as these preemptive pardons are concerned, who are they for? Well, it's been said. Now, I got a little information on this from RT.com news. Now, this wasn't the only place or source for this info. It just happens to be the source I'm using right now in relaying this information. So, who has been, and according to anonymous sources, who has been considered or is being talked about as being granted a preemptive pardon, a get-out-of-jail-free card that you can save for later? Well, among those, and it's of no surprise, is Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now, it's been shown, it's been revealed that Fauci had lied to the world in regard to the COVID vaccine efficacy, its safety, and of course, in everything else he did in trying to advise those of how to handle the pandemic, which was more negative than positive. But of course, he is on the table for receiving a preemptive pardon. Again, a get out of jail free card. Also, there is General Mark Milley, who, if everyone recalls, called his Chinese correspondent prior to the 2020 U.S. election, and then after January 6th. And Trump has considered Mark Milley to be a traitor in Trump's eyes. Also up for a preemptive pardon or get out of jail free pass is Liz Cheney. So she was a former Republican that joined the Democrat Party, and she was a part of the January 6th committee. So there's another person who is up for a preemptive pardon. Now, what's important to know about Liz Cheney is she literally destroyed and withheld evidence in support of January 6th not being an insurrection. Yeah, let me repeat that. Liz Cheney destroyed and held back evidence in regards to the January 6th committee hearings. But she's going to get a get out of jail free card from President Joseph Dipshit Biden. Also up for consideration, and this is a rumor, by the way, I haven't seen any other sources as far as news outlets that have confirmed this, but there are plenty of rumors floating around about Hillary Clinton possibly receiving a preemptive pardon as well. Again, I can't confirm this one, but the rumors are definitely swirling around. Now, what's important to note about these preemptive pardons, which I find interesting, that it would even be something that Joe Biden would consider, is that this granting of a preemptive pardon is literally an admission of guilt. It automatically confirms that the people in question receiving these get out of jail free cards are literally guilty of the crimes that everybody has accused them of. And it seems that Joe Biden is really doing everything he can to go out of his way to protect all of his buddies from being convicted and thrown into jail and questioned, so that, hey, let's take care of the family, as they say, or should I say, the political mafia. This whole thing seems like a scene out of The Godfather, where Biden, who is Michael Corleone, is going out of his way to just preemptively grant pardons and commute sentences in order to just take care of his own. And he can do it because he is the head honcho. He's in charge of everything, and he can literally do what he wants before he is done with the job of being president of the United States. And if you further consider how egregious these accusations and sentences have been, to me, this is just further proof that Biden himself is absolutely corrupt and has been corrupt his entire political career. Speaking of corruption, now let's move on to taxpayer dollars and how your government is using your money. And of course, I am talking about foreign aid. Foreign aid just seems to be raining out of the sky. U.S. is just throwing it around willy-nilly, letting anybody get a piece for whatever they deem fit for their use. But when it comes to the Ukraine, you can argue there is a legitimate case. I mean, they are at war against a superpower. People are dying. Russia is encroaching on their territory, their sovereignty, and very much wants to make Ukraine another territory, province, state, whatever you call it. Basically, they want to make it a part of Russia. Putin has made this very clear. But at what point do we start to question the amount of money being spent? Where is the accountability? To this day, not all of it has been accounted for. And while they do list and track funds under the programs or packages as they're named, it doesn't really go into a lot of detail as to where every single dollar has been sent or even spent on. Now, there's a website that I encourage everybody to go to. It's called foreignassistance.gov. So that's foreignassistance.gov. I think I'll try to go ahead and include these links. I'm going to go to a few different pages on here, but I'll go ahead and include the foreignassistance.gov link into the show notes so that you can go ahead and see for yourself what's going on. Now, what's great about this website, outside of tracking government spending or, foreign assistance packages, you can break it down. There's a lot of filters, so you can go ahead and track it by country, and then you can go ahead and see the amount of money by year that has been spent, and you could go ahead and even dissect it further by disbursements versus obligations. And so this is a great website to get your information into where your taxpayer dollars are being sent. But as far as the Ukraine is concerned, you see, here's the thing. Right now, we don't really know the total amount because for the fiscal years of 2023 and 2024, they still haven't reported everything that has been sent to the Ukraine. Now, I did find that as of November 2024, specifically, not even November, I believe as of September 30th, I had to correct myself there. As of September 30th of 2024, the U.S.-Ukraine response funding totals have been somewhere around $183 billion. Now, if I go back to the foreignassistance.gov website, I was able to add up everything from 2020 up to 23. Now, remember and keep in mind that not everything has been reported as of 2023, and especially as of 2024. But if we just take those numbers alone, the amount realistically up to 2022 and part of 2023 had been $30,606,101,921. And so between that time and September of 23, that amount had shot up to $183 billion. But we're not done because as of literally a few days ago, there have been additional funding allocated and sent. There have been packages upwards of $20 billion sent to Kiev. But this was supposedly or allegedly Russian assets that were seized by the U.S. So that money may not necessarily be taxpayer money, but I guarantee that a forensic audit is definitely in order here. Okay, so there's also been a $500 million arms aid package sent to Ukraine. And recently there has also been a $988 million package allotted by the DoD. So where is all this money actually going to? I know it said it's going to the Ukraine, but where is it going to? What exactly is that money being spent on? Is it all going to military assistance and humanitarian aid as it should be? Or is it being funneled to the pockets of American politicians, NGOs, and Zelensky himself. Now, while those accusations remain to be unproven yet, and I do say yet, what about another country that has been a major recipient of U.S. funding? In fact, a major recipient since it became a sovereign nation in 1948. And if you know your history and you can connect the dots, you know I'm talking about Israel. You see, Israel has also been the recipient of massive amounts of money. And if you go back to that same website, usforeignassistance.gov, you can see that since 2020, I'm going to use the same date ranges, by the way. So from 2020 through 2023, and keep in mind that 23 and 2024, both years are still not fully reported. But they have received on an average of over $3 billion a year. $3 billion a year for a total of $13,230,416,986. But what's more alarming, and I didn't go as far back as 1948, and if you've listened to any of my shows in the past, you will find that I have addressed this before, and I did address all the funding that we have been sending to Israel in the past. So this isn't the first time I've talked about this, by the way. I just want you to be aware of that. But on this website, foreignassistance.gov, if you go back to 2001, all the way back to 2001, up until the partially reported year of 2023 on the foreignassistance.gov website, Israel has been receiving since 2001 an average of $3 billion a year. $3 billion a year. Now, let's concentrate on what's going on now. Let's focus on what's been current, though, just as I did with the Ukraine. You see, a lot of people aren't realizing how much money is being sent to Israel right now. If you want to get more information on that, you can go to a website called cfr.org, and there's an article there that actually breaks this down. In fact, I'm going to leave that link in the show notes as well. So it's cfr.org, and there's a nice chart that breaks down the U.S. aid to Israel. And they have 4 separate charts that you can go over that tracks all this. So the reality is, if we're talking currently, and obviously since the attack on Israel in October 7th of 2023, there were additional dollars outside of the standard $3 billion a year that the U.S. sends to Israel. You see, the United States, after October 7th of 2023, enacted legislation providing at least $12.5 billion in direct military aid. There was also $3.8 billion from a bill in March of 2024. There's $8.7 billion from a Supplemental Appropriations Act in April of 2024. And it's estimated that Israel has received a total of $17.9 billion in U.S. military aid just between the periods of October 7th, 2023 up to 2024. Actually, as of April 2024. And that doesn't include anything else that has been sent to Israel since April of 2024. Now, add that additional $17 billion, and Israel has received since 2020 $31,130,416,986. Let's add that to what we've sent the Ukraine thus far and what has been reported since 2020, the amount of $180 billion or $180 billion. And that total amount to Israel and Ukraine comes out to $211,130,416,986. Now, there are 330 million individuals reportedly living in the United States of America. And of course, there's a large percentage of that we also have to chalk up to being children. But let's break down the population by reported families in the United States of America. And this is data that has been reported as of 2023. And it states that there are 83.8 million families in the United States. So if we divide that astronomical number that has been sent to Israel and Ukraine since 2020 by the amount of families that have been reported in the U.S., that's $2,519,000 for every family. Now, granted, that's not a lot of money if you break it down by the years between 2020 and 2024 or 23, whichever it is that has been reported fiscally for those years to the government agencies. But regardless, it does show the astronomical amount of money that has been sent just to those two nations. And listen up here. That's not the total amount that the U.S. sends out to countries around the world. We fund over 200 countries. As of the last reports that I found in 2024, we have sent aid to 174 countries, about 174 countries. Think about that. If we're sending this amount of money to Israel and Ukraine, and you add up everything else that's been sent out to the other 174 some odd countries, imagine what could be done with that money in the United States. We have victims of natural disasters that can't even get their lives back, but yet the government always finds a way to pull money out of their asses to send to foreign nations, completely ignoring the needs of Americans who give the government this money via the tax dollars taken from our fucking paychecks. And to further put this into perspective for you, this comes out to $52,782,604,246 for every year since 2020. For the past 4 years in a row, over $52 billion has been sent to just these two nations, just Israel and Ukraine. Now, if the Biden administration themselves have not proven their disdain for the American people and their abuse of powers by mishandling your hard-earned tax dollars that you've given to the government and apparently supporting pedophiles, child pornography peddlers, and people who abuse children by granting pardons and commuting sentences. And furthermore, considering preemptive pardons, again, get out of jail free cards to dirty, corrupt politicians. If that's not enough, Joe Biden has reached his big, old, ugly hand out and slapped you all in the face one more time. Remember the wall that Trump wanted to build to protect America by actually establishing a physical border? Remember that? In Trump's first term, the Democrat Party did everything they could to make sure that this was not achieved. They literally put a halt to construction, even though all the materials have been purchased. And guess what has been done with all that material? Absolutely nothing. It's just been sitting around since 2017 or so, I believe. Maybe it went back to 2016. I don't remember when he actually started that project, but regardless, the Democrat Party went out of their way to make sure that Trump did not achieve what should have been done for so many years before. They would label him a racist, a xenophobe. They threw every name they could at him to get the American people to hate Trump and to pull their support from Trump and finishing an actual physical border wall. Well, the materials that have already been bought, that have been purchased for an alarming amount of money, have been just laid to waste. Well, not really waste. Look, the material was made to last, so it wasn't wasted, but it was wasted in the sense that it was never used. Well, lo and behold, as of December 11th, just a few days ago, these materials were found on the government auction website. That's right. These materials are being auctioned off instead of being utilized or kept aside and stored so that once Trump is back in office, he can finish this project. The Biden administration chose to take all of this material and put it on a government auction website. We're talking grade A steel. We're 32-foot sections, literally a little, almost 33-foot high by 8-foot wide sections of steel panels made to complete the border wall are on auction in lots of 4 or 5, starting at an ever so low price of $5. That's right. You can buy this large amount of steel with a value that is much higher than what they're asking for a low price of only $5 per lot of 5 steel panels. This is an obvious slap in the face to all Americans and a literal message to Trump that, hey, if you want to finish what you started, it's going to cost you because you're going to have to start over and we're not going to give you any support whatsoever. So it seems that the Biden administration is doing everything they can to further jeopardize the United States by abusing taxpayer dollars, by pardoning child pornographers and child abusers, Chinese spies, and granting preemptive pardons to people who've committed crimes against the world, such as Anthony Fauci. Now, he hasn't granted preemptive pardons to people like Fauci yet, but the fact that it's even being considered and not being denied is an absolute admission of guilt and further supports the accusations of Biden himself and his family being traitors to the United States of America. Now let's switch gears here and let's talk about drones. Let's talk about all the sightings of unmanned aircraft, large groups of drones that have been seen in the skies on the East Coast. We're talking New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and there's also been sightings in other areas. Now, everybody's wondering what's going on, but the government has no answers for it. And in fact, many people are saying, oh, they're just, everyone's just being hysterical. They're seeing what they want to see. But yet there are countless videos out there of these unmanned aircraft that don't fly like a manned aircraft, like an airplane or even maybe a helicopter. Drones are extremely fast. They can move in and out almost in an instant. And manned aircraft just do not do that. Now, it very well could be that these sightings have now become overblown. Maybe it is a case of mass hysteria. Maybe there's been enough sightings, but because of the sightings and videos that have been floating around social media, maybe people are looking up into the skies and seeing what they want to see. It's possible. It's happened before, but not so fast. Here's a CBS News clip that I found where they had somebody ask the locals and also try to assess the situation on what's going on down there in New Jersey regarding these sightings. I want to play a bit of this clip.
Yeah, and one thing we know for certain is that people are certainly talking about this. Speaking of those concerns, we do know that a number of mayors across the state of New Jersey are in a closed-door meeting right now trying to address and get to the bottom of what exactly they should be doing in response to these drones. We have heard over the past few days that these drones are not posing a security threat to local communities, although that has not done much to ease concerns amongst the residents all throughout New Jersey, Staten Island, and New York, Reed.
And Tom, are these seen in any proximity to any sort of high priority sites for the United States?
Yeah, well, I mean, Mendham, New Jersey is a perfect example of that. We are just 15 minutes from Donald Trump's national golf course. We are also very close to a military base where these drones have been seen time and time again. We're told that these drones are often popping up right around dusk in the dark. And then by the time people pick up their phones to document them, they're gone. And so it's largely a mystery still. Hopefully we'll get some answers in the coming days. Reed.
This is over my house right now. What is that?
It's the million-dollar question baffling New Jersey residents looking skyward.
They're just pacing back and forth, going very slow.
Since last month, dozens of drones mysteriously hovering in the skies at night. Near Morris County, the FAA has now ordered 2 temporary flight restrictions prohibiting drones over this military base and Trump National Golf Club after receiving reports of unexplained activity. Today, Homeland Security and state police met with some New Jersey officials, including Mayor Jim Maley.
I truly don't believe they have any idea where the drones are coming from.
Many still have questions, including Congressman Jeff Van Drew, who says individuals with high security clearance have a theory about where the drones come from.
Their concern is that a mothership has left from Iran weeks ago, coinciding about the time somewhere along the area of the United States. It doesn't mean they're right off the coast.
But in a briefing today, Pentagon officials dismissed the claim outright.
We have no evidence that these activities are coming from a foreign entity or the work of an adversary.
In Mendham, New Jersey, Olivia DiMattio's coffee shop is right near the sensitive locations where the drones have been spotted. How big are these things? Are they different sizes?
They are the size of small cars, almost like a Mini Cooper or a Ford Escape size. So it's not something that a kid is buying off of Amazon and flying around as a prank. It's way, way past that.
And we're here in front of Picatinny Arsenal. It provides munitions products for all branches of the U.S. military. It's also one of those sensitive sites that these drones have flown close to. And Nora, both lawmakers we spoke to today say one of these drones needs to be taken down safely so they can get some answers.
Okay, so after watching this video, it seems to be confirmed by residents that no, they're not commercial aircraft. They're not anything that has been normally been spotted in the skies over New Jersey. But we do have to ask the question, especially with the military installation within the area and the sightings of these drones in and around that military installation, could this just be new experimental drone technology that is being tested by the U.S. government, but the U.S. government just doesn't want to tell anybody? I think that is a much more plausible story than drones being sent here all the way from Iran. Come on. If the U.S. truly got a whiff of Iran coming within, any distance of the United States would be all over Iran. We'd be invading them right now and doing everything we can to take them out. That would give the United States government the excuse they need to the American public to go ahead and wipe Iran off the face of the earth. But that's not what's happening. And so I don't believe it's Iran sending drones over to the United States to hover over military installations. It's just not happening. This very well could just be United States military technology being tested. Now, there's another report by the BBC that looked into what's going on as well. And I'm going to go ahead and read a lot of that report and try to see if there's anything else that might have been uncovered. According to this BBC article, they asked a question, well, where have the drones been spotted? Okay, so dozens of drone sightings have been reported over New Jersey since November 18th, according to local authorities. So this has been going on for about over a month now. Says the drones were initially spotted near the Raritan River, a waterway which feeds into the Round Valley Reservoir, which is the largest in New Jersey. All right, so that's important to note. So drones that are looking over a major water source. It says that the sighting soon spread to other parts of the state, including New Jersey's coast. Some of the flights were spotted near Picatinny Arsenal, which is what I was just discussing earlier, which is a sensitive military research facility. Again, research facility. So I think I'm going to hold to my theory that this is just U.S. military technology being tested, but let me read on and see what else they may have found. It says, in nearby New York City, several drones were reported flying over the Bronx on December 12th. It says that in Maryland, former Republican Governor Larry Hogan claimed he saw what appeared to be dozens of drones over his residence in Davidsonville, about 25 miles from Washington, D.C. It's also important to note that in late November, the United States Air Force also confirmed that unidentified drones were spotted over 3 U.S. air bases in the UK So the U.S. Air Force themselves are identifying these as drones that may not be part of military operations, but that doesn't explain the drones flying in U.S. airspace over U.S. soil. And so far, nobody knows where the drones are coming from, or at least no one's admitting to it. And it's not been confirmed that it is any foreign nation running operations. But as I said, the chances of that ever even happening are pretty much zero. They're pretty much zero. So I think it still might just be U.S. military technology being tested. And again, these drones, they're not something that you could just order on Amazon or that any hobbyist would normally have. It's been reported these things are the size of small vehicles. Like, that's pretty big. That is not a tiny object whatsoever. And there have been multiple drones sighted. Now, what did the U.S. White House have to say? Now, you heard a little bit of the response in the previous video I played from CBS. And here's a more recent address by the U.S. White House. I'm going to play that for you right now.
Now, finally, I just want to add a few comments on the reports of drone activity here on the East Coast, particularly in and around New Jersey. We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat, or have a foreign nexus. The Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are investigating these sightings, and they're working closely with state and local law enforcement to provide resources using numerous detection methods to better understand their origin. Using very sophisticated electronic detection technologies provided by federal authorities, we have not been able to, and neither have state or local law enforcement authorities, corroborate any of the reported visual sightings. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully.
All right, that's just a pile of bullshit right there. So you're trying to say that a person doesn't know the difference between a manned jet, passenger jet, versus a drone? I mean, it's pretty easy to see the difference if you spot either of them flying in the skies. And when you see drones in quantities of 6 or more grouped together, doing maneuvers and whatnot, yeah, that's definitely not commercial aircraft. Also, Kirby goes on to say that basically, we can't tell you what we know because we don't know anything. But then again, we're not saying we don't know anything. But based on the evidence available to the public, there's no evidence of where these things are coming from. And that, don't believe what you're hearing. But again, we're saying, but we're not saying. Typical government bullshit. Now, I don't believe that this is aliens or Russians or Iranians. I believe it's the U.S. government themselves. I personally think that they are testing their own technologies, but that does little to ease the public's concern. And the U.S. government just needs to stop lying and admit that, hey, you know what? We're just testing military technology. Fine. Just say it and move on. That's all you got to do. Period. All right, everybody, that's the show. That is episode 52. Thanks for hanging in there and listening to all of my theories and rhetoric. But I appreciate all of you and have a great day.
I wanna taste your content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell.